Before I begin my actual address, there's someone I'd like to invite to join me on the stage. Nancy, would you come up? This is someone who many of you already know, but I need to introduce her to those of you who don't. I want you to meet your new conference lay leader, Nancy Tam Davis. Would you join me? I'm very excited about this. Nancy is phenomenal. I haven't had the chance to really meet her until this weekend, and I'm really looking forward to the next 4 years under her leadership. And I've invited her just to say a few words in greeting.
Thank you. Bishop, cabinet, staff, clergy, laity, hello. And when I drove here this morning, I thought, good luscious morning. Isn't that a great phrase? Good luscious afternoon. First, I want to express my appreciation to laity for your vote of confidence yesterday. And I feel this tingling in kind of the back of my head, this sense that I am about to embark on one of the greatest adventures of my life, with you and with God, and we can do that. It's kind of that feeling of the last few clicking up feet before you reach the top of the big hill on the big roller coaster. And that's kind of what I'm feeling right now, that it's coming, and I'm ready for that. One of the things I mentioned yesterday is that my life work has been about bringing voices to the table, all the voices, young voices, new voices, voices that hold tradition, voices that drop kick us into new visions, voices that are quiet, voices that have been muted or silenced by our culture. And this afternoon, I got to see an amazing demonstration of how we as United Methodists engage in passionate and caring, compassionate dialogue together over difficult issues. It would be easy if we all thought alike. It'd probably be pointless if we all thought alike, because then we wouldn't need to talk to one another or hear one another or change, because we have engaged one another. We need all the voices at the table. As I said yesterday, we live in interesting times, and that presents us with challenges that will need all the voices. I'm here to take this ride with you, and you as laity, clergy, cabinet, bishop, episcopacy, jurisdiction. It's when those voices come together that life gets truly exciting. Thank you.
Yes, the laity made a wise choice. Author Anne Lamott shares a story. It's a story about a little girl who became lost on her way home from school one day. Fortunately, a police car drove by and the officer recognized what was happening. And helping the girl into the car, the officer said, "Don't worry, we'll find your home." And so then they began to drive very slowly up and down every street of their small town. Suddenly the girl yelled, "Stop, you can let me out here." And the police officer said, "Is this where you live? Is this your street?" And she replied, "No, but that's my church, and I can always find my way home from there." I first shared this story 4 years ago at the laity session when I was a candidate for conference lay leader. And at that time, I said that I was sharing it because it spoke to my experience of church, a place from which I could always find my way home. And that's still true. But what's also true is that church is more than that. Church is also home. We speak about church in these terms sometimes. We refer to one's home church. We speak of the members of our church as our church family. And like family, we don't always get along. but hopefully we can disagree without being unkind and unloving. This is the way it is in healthy families and in healthy churches. Now, last year I stood here and I told you that I had a plan for this address. I wanted to share the many ways that laity in this conference are serving their neighbors, and then I shelved it and shared a different message. Today, I still want to share some of those stories with you, and I recognize that they're a year old, and in a year, a lot can change in some churches. But I think these stories are helpful because they are indicative of the ministry currently being done in churches all across our conference. And one of these might inspire someone listening today. So here are a few of those stories that our district lay leaders gathered last year. I want to lift up Leavenworth UMC and their backpack project. This was a food program for children in local schools so that no one goes hungry, no child goes hungry over the weekend. At Battleground United Methodist Church, what began as a simple children's choir grew into multiple ministries, including activities for older siblings, a parents group, dinner for participants. After a video of the children's choir made it to Facebook, member Diane Ernest sat the children down and asked them what they knew about missionaries. And then she explained to them what a missionary does. And she told them that they were missionaries because they were spreading the love of God through their singing. Pastor Rashenda Fairhurst at Camas UMC shared about the way that their planning sessions around reaching families new to the neighborhood led them to Messy Church. Leaders among the laity came forward to make this happen. At Wenatchee First UMC, what began as a staff Christmas gift exchange turned into ministry to those living on the streets. I want to hear the story about how that happened. Gifts were given to those in need, including things like envelopes with stamps, t-shirts, hats in the winter, and many other necessities. In 2010, a lay leader at Sequim Trinity UMC sought a way to help those affected by the economic downturn, and the answer that came to them was, I know, we're Methodists, we do dinners. And this was the beginning of free monthly dinners. Everyone who arrived was treated as a special guest. Church members donated and prepared the food, they hosted the dinners, and they dined with their guests. Last year, they were hosting 45 to 55 guests a week, with 100 arriving on Thanksgiving for dinner. Kashmir UMC hosted weekly community dinners, and the ministry inspired other churches in the community to get involved. And then there's passerby prayer ministry at First UMC of Canada. The members are going outside their walls and inviting in anyone who passes by. And they do this by holding signs. You can't miss them. The signs say things like, need prayer? We will pray with you. First United Methodist Church of Canada. These are just a handful of the stories around this conference where laity are working to meet the needs of the world beyond their doors. These dedicated laypersons and their partnering pastors recognize that church is not just about Sunday morning. It's about moving beyond what we've always done, beyond what is comfortable and safe and neat and clean, and being in the community and inviting the community in as special guests. Now, no one said this to me, but I'm just guessing that at least some of these ministries had moments where participants found themselves perhaps feeling uncomfortable with this new thing, or perhaps they faced some opposition, but the ministry went ahead anyway. Now, this morning I arrived here knowing that this address was not finished. I had been allowed 20 minutes on the schedule, which is a great gift at a conference where there's so much to be done and so many others who are worthy of standing here addressing you all. And this morning I had about a 10-minute presentation prepared. But I also knew that that's typical for me. I don't know if God really waits until the last minute to speak to me. That's my guess. Or perhaps I just have to reach that point of desperation before I start listening. Whatever the case may be, I knew that the rest of the message would be revealed to me so long as I was open to hearing it. And then it happened. Actually, two things happened. During the morning break, I was having a conversation with my dear friend Helen Smith, who I'm just about to embarrass, but I warned her about this. I said that I was going back to my hotel during the lunch break to work on my address, and she asked if I needed any help. And I said, yeah, I need all the help I can get. To which she replied, as any good friend would, do you need help hemming it? I can do that. You know, it was a moment of levity that I really needed at that point. But it was also true that I honestly needed all the help I could get. And then as I left that conversation, I ran into another dear friend, Reverend Katie Klosterman. And we had a great conversation about the nature of church, part of which was our resistance to change. At first, we agreed that our lives are constantly changing. The world around us is constantly changing. But we don't fight those changes the way we do when it occurs in the church. And then I realized, yes, I do. I remembered learning that these pants that I'm wearing, my favorite pants, were no longer available at Christopher and Banks stores. They don't make them anymore. And I don't know what I thought I could accomplish by assailing the salesperson who broke this heartbreaking news to me with all the reasons that this was a terrible decision. These are perfect pants. They fit so well. Who made this stupid decision? What were they thinking? Change is hard. But I'm hearing stories of laity and clergy who embrace it anyway, knowing that it will be uncomfortable and there will be opposition, and they will stay the course. In case you haven't heard, there's something happening around here. It's fast becoming a movement in this conference. It's called Rebuild, Up from the Ashes. It's a lay-led initiative that has inspired the laity across the conference to act. At the laity session yesterday, we heard a presentation from Jim Truitt. Is Jim here? I saw him over here a little while ago. There he is in the back. We also heard from Carlene Anders, who's the mayor of Pateros, and she's a volunteer firefighter. And Barry, is Barry here? There's Barry, construction manager for this project. We heard about the devastation caused by the wildfires in north central Washington in 2014 and 2015. A few months ago, our associate lay leader, David Reinholz, who's out here somewhere.
He's over there.
Here he is. David Reinholz and Seven Rivers District lay leader, Karen Fisher, who's here. There she is, right in front. They brought this to the Board of Laity. They brought it to our attention and said there's a great need. It still exists in the area. And the Board of Laity said, what do we need to do? So David and our district lay leaders took a trip to Pateros, and they met with Jim and Carlene and Barry. They toured the area, and they learned that there are many families who are still displaced. Many are living in storage sheds with no insulation, no electricity, no running water. The community is still struggling to rebuild, and even though they're struggling so, it's sort of fallen off of our radar. That's not to say there hasn't already been a great deal of assistance from the United Methodist Church and from this conference, as well as many other faith-based organizations, and they're grateful for all of that. But the sheer magnitude of this loss, which I had not previously understood, is going to require an equally grand magnitude of assistance if this community is ever to be made whole again. So the Board of Laity has set a goal for our conference, and that is to raise enough money and provide enough teams of volunteers to rebuild 6 homes. Now, it costs about $90,000 to build a home. Don't do the math, because you'll be overwhelmed. You don't want to go there. It seems like a lot, but I am encouraged by the fact that whenever anyone sees the video that they have prepared or visits the area and sees the devastation, they're inspired to act. Already we have donations coming in, and we're encouraged by the laity who know that together we can make a difference. As Jim says, let's go help some people. And that's just what we're going to do. Your district lay leaders are leading the way with support from the entire Board of Laity. The laity are quite literally helping people find their way home. This, I think, is church at its best. So many of the stories I received began as one small step, but because these leaders are open to the Spirit's leading, great things are happening and more people are being reached. These laity are feeding and praying and teaching and cooking and serving, simply because they want all of the family of God to come home. Amen.
Joan as she finishes her quadrennium, and we invite you all to come up and start the presentations.
I guess I'll lead the charge. David Reinholtz, Associate Conference Lay Leader, who's had the privilege to work with this beautiful woman for the last couple of years at least, and to try to find our way forward. I think you're leaving at really an interesting time, and now I sort of understand why. But nevertheless, we love you, and we just want you to have a little gift to remember us by.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Board of Laity and the Pacific Northwest United Methodist Women, would I have you open this, please? Yes, you have to open it. It's not a bag. The comfort of Psalms. And there are verses from the Psalms. This was made by Nancy Campbell from Golden Dale, especially for Joan.
Because Joan and I have lived within the same district, we've spent, I think, probably more time individually, not just as leader to leader, but as friends, and that's not going to stop. Joan, I wasn't going to give you the bag, but guess what this says?
It's my pants!
You guess where I get my stuff? I didn't know. But anyway, inside here was what was going to come to you. Now then, this says,
Thanks, Joan.
if I could have just have figured out a way without you being around me 24/7 practically, they would have had, there'd be more of their wishes in here. So there's a few. So now then, this is all out in the open. If any of you want to write a note, I don't care what, it's on a sticky note. Find Joan and have it stick, because this is her Thanks Joan box. So there are a few wishes in here of thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
But it's just because I couldn't do it.
can get rid of me.
That's exactly right. And I think this was just the most serendipitous, wonderful thing for a long time.
Give me a hug. One of the great joys of serving in this role is getting to serve with these people. And there are a number of things I will miss about it. And right up there at the top is this Board of Laity. Some of the finest and most gifted and dedicated people you could ever meet. So thank you all. Thank you all.
One more. We have one more, Joan. And that is, it's hard for me to imagine Joan leaving. In fact, I tried to persuade her to do one more quadrennium. But Joan and meetings don't always match, and this job requires a lot of meetings. And Joan would rather be out in the field, actually, doing the ministry rather than sitting through a meeting. And so I understood completely. But I couldn't think of a more loyal, a person who walks in ministry with you. Very gentle touch, but very clear about the direction that we need to go and where she's at. And just kind of like the perfect lay partner with my office. And it's something that I'm going to miss. We're excited about Nancy, of course, but for Joan, I wanted to, and the drama of this is usually we present this award at the awards celebration, but this is going to come at this particular time because it seemed appropriate. And so for the 2016 Bishops Award, we wanted to honor Joan for her work as our lay leader during this year. So, Joan, well deserved.
Thank you, Bishop. Wow, what a surprise. I don't know what to say because honestly, except for the meetings, it hasn't felt like work. It's truly been a pleasure and a blessing, and I couldn't have asked for a more supportive conference or a more supportive bishop, and it's been a real honor to serve with you. So, thank you all. Thank you, Bishop.